The wind swept across the ruins of the village, carrying dust that made Captain Elias squint against the setting sun. The once bustling human settlement now lay in scattered pieces, with broken walls and abandoned homes standing like silent witnesses of a war that had stolen peace from the outskirts of the galaxy. Elias had been sent to patrol these lands, ensuring no raiders or hostile forces were hiding among the wreckage. But today, his mission felt heavier than ever. He moved cautiously along the cracked stone path, his boots crunching over shards of metal and splintered wood. His rifle rested against his shoulder, but his eyes scanned for anything unusual. The air was quiet, almost too quiet. Then he heard it, a soft, desperate sound of a child crying somewhere inside a nearby farmhouse. Elias froze, lowering his weapon slightly. Most travelers would have ignored it, assuming the sound came from some long-gone family or the wind itself. But something in that cry tugged at him. It was human enough to understand, yet different, strange and melodic, almost alien in tone. His instincts told him to investigate. The farmhouse stood at the edge of the village, walls half-collapsed and windows empty. Inside, he could see a small figure huddled on the floor, a child no older than 3, with pale skin and big, bright eyes that reflected fear. Beside the child was a woman, alien in form, but humanoid enough that Elias could relate to her desperation. Her hair shimmered with a faint silver hue, and her skin had a soft blue tint, giving her an ethereal glow even in the dim light. She noticed him immediately. Her eyes widened, a mix of hope and panic. "Please, please don't hurt us," she said in broken Galactic common. Her voice trembled. I can warm your bed, milk your cow, anything you want. Just feed my child." Elias blinked, taken aback. The words were simple, but the emotion behind them was raw and undeniable. She was not demanding help. She was pleading, offering everything she could to ensure her child survived. He studied her carefully. There was no weapon, no trick hiding in her hands. Just desperation. He lowered his weapon completely. "What happened here?" he asked, his voice steady but gentle. She shook her head, clutching the child tighter. "Raiders. They came when the colony was weak. They took everything. Everything. I cannot survive alone. I cannot let my child starve." Her eyes filled with tears, and Elias felt a knot in his chest. He stepped closer, keeping his hands visible. "Where are your people now?" They are gone. Taken. I escaped, but my child—" Her voice cracked. "I have nothing. Please." Elias knelt down to her level, trying to show calm and understanding. "I will help. I cannot let your child go hungry, but you need to stay calm. Can you do that?" She nodded quickly, relief flooding her face. "Yes, I can do that. Anything. I can help. I can work. Just let my child eat." Elias glanced around. The farmhouse, though damaged, still had some livestock and a small storage area that might hold edible supplies. "Good. Let's see what we can do." The woman hesitated for a moment, then moved to a small corner where a few cows were tethered. She worked with practiced hands, though her body shook from hunger and exhaustion. Elias watched, impressed by her determination. Despite her alien appearance, her care for her child was universal, something he recognized instantly. Over the next hour, Elias helped gather water, repaired a broken fence, and cleaned the small corral. The woman, whose name he learned was Lyra, began to feed the child from a small bottle she had preserved. The child's cries faded into soft gurgles of contentment, and Elias felt a rare warmth in his chest. In a galaxy torn by conflict, this moment of simple survival felt like a victory. "You work hard," he said finally, watching her tend the animals. "Why do you call yourself desperate? You are doing more than most would." Lyra smiled faintly, though exhaustion shadowed her features. "Desperate, yes. because I cannot protect him alone. Without help, he will die." She glanced at the child, who now played with a small piece of straw. "I do not want him to die." Elias nodded, understanding all too well. He had seen death too many times, and it had never been kind. But he had also seen hope survive in the darkest places. And here, in this ruined farmhouse, he saw it again. Night fell, and the farmhouse grew colder. Elias built a small fire outside while Lyra prepared a simple meal for the child. The wind howled, carrying with it the distant sounds of alien patrols. They could be here at any moment, but for now there was safety. For now there was warmth. Lyra approached Elias cautiously. You will not leave us, yes? Even if they come?" Elias looked at her, considering. He had a mission, orders to follow, and yet the sight of this mother and her child stirred something he had thought buried. "I will not leave you," he said firmly. "Not tonight. Not until your child is safe." Her eyes shone with gratitude. She bowed her head slightly, almost reverently. Thank you, human soldier. I will repay you. Whatever you wish." Elias shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. Just survive. That is repayment enough." The night grew deeper, and they shared what little food they had. Elias spoke quietly of the outside world, of distant human colonies, and Lyra listened with wide eyes, occasionally glancing at her child. The child, sensing the safety of the moment, drifted to sleep in Lyra's arms. Hours passed. The wind subsided, but the faint rumble of engines in the distance reminded Elias that danger was never far. Raiders could return at any time, and alien patrols were still on alert. He needed to find a plan. "We will need more food tomorrow," he said quietly, so as not to wake the child. "And you need to rest. You cannot take care of him if you collapse." Lyra nodded, settling down near the fire. "I will rest, but only a little. I must watch him." Elias considered her for a moment, then spoke softly. "I will stay here tonight. Tomorrow we will see how to get supplies from the outer settlement. You are not alone, Lyra. Not while I am here." She closed her eyes, exhaustion finally overtaking her. "Thank you, Elias, for everything." The fire crackled and popped, casting flickering shadows on the walls of the ruined farmhouse. Outside, the galaxy was cold and dangerous, but inside, there was warmth. Inside, there was hope. And for the first time in weeks, Lyra allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could survive. Elias kept watch through the night, scanning the horizon with a careful eye. He saw nothing at first, only the empty fields and the dark outline of distant mountains. But he remained alert. He had learned long ago that danger often came quietly, like a shadow slipping across the land. Hours passed, and finally, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon. Birds, rare in this desolate place, began to chirp softly. Elias breathed a quiet sigh of relief. The night had passed without incident. He looked at Lyra, who had dozed off beside her child, a faint smile on her face even in sleep. Elias realized then that this small moment, this fragile household of a human soldier, an alien mother and her child, was a testament to something greater. In a universe torn by war, kindness and courage could bridge worlds. They could create hope where none existed. He silently vowed to himself, no matter what came next, he would protect them. Not because of orders, not because of duty, but because it was right. Because sometimes being human meant more than fighting battles. It meant caring when no one else would, standing firm when all seemed lost. The day ahead would be difficult. They needed food, shelter, and safety. Raiders could return, and patrols could find them. But for now, they had survived another night. And survival, in this galaxy, was the first step toward victory. As the sun rose fully, casting golden light over the ruins, Elias prepared to take the next step. He would find a way to get them supplies. He would teach Lyra to defend herself if needed. He would ensure her child grew strong and safe. And maybe, just maybe, they would prove that humanity's greatest power was not its weapons or technology, but its heart. The wind stirred again, carrying with it both the promise of danger and the hope of tomorrow. Elias tightened his grip on his rifle and glanced at Lyra and her child. Together, they would face whatever the galaxy had to throw at them. Together, they would survive. And in that moment, among the ruins of a shattered village, a human soldier and an alien mother discovered the simplest truth of all, that even in the darkest places, life could endure, hope could bloom, and kindness could be a weapon stronger than any gun. The morning sun bathed the ruined village in a warm, golden light, giving the broken walls and scattered debris an almost peaceful glow. Captain Elias stood at the edge of the farmhouse, scanning the horizon. Raiders could return at any moment, but today he had a plan. He would find supplies for Lyra and her child, secure their temporary home, and teach them how to stay safe in this harsh world. Lyra stirred inside the farmhouse, her child cradled carefully in her arms. She opened her eyes slowly, taking in the sunlight and the small fire that still burned quietly. When she saw Elias outside, she stood, brushing her silver hair back, her eyes reflecting determination despite her exhaustion. "Good morning," Elias called softly, offering a small smile. "We have work to do." Lyra nodded. "Yes. Today we will find food and water. We cannot wait. My child cannot wait." She adjusted the child in her arms, who yawned and blinked sleepily. Elias gestured to the child. "I'll take him for a while. You need to move faster without worrying." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "All right. Thank you." She handed her child to Elias, who held him carefully, noting how small and fragile he was. The child looked at him with curious eyes, and Elias felt a protective instinct he had not expected. They moved quietly through the village, avoiding open areas where patrolling raiders might see them. Elias carried the child in his arms while Lyra followed closely, pointing out hidden paths and abandoned structures where they could find supplies. Their first stop was an old storage shed on the outskirts of the village. Elias pried open the rusted door, revealing crates of grains, preserved fruits, and water containers, left behind by villagers who had fled during the attacks. Lyra's eyes lit up. This will feed my child for weeks," she whispered, her voice trembling. She quickly began to organize the food, careful not to drop anything. Elias helped, stacking the crates neatly and securing them from possible theft. As they worked, Elias glanced at Lyra. "You are stronger than I thought. Most would have given up." Lyra shook her head. "I cannot give up. Not when my child depends on me. I will do anything. I can warm beds, milk cows, tend to animals. I will work. I must survive." Elias nodded, respecting her courage. "Then we will survive. Together." Once the supplies were secured, they returned to the farmhouse. Elias taught Lyra how to store the food safely, away from pests and the elements. He also showed her simple ways to reinforce doors and windows using broken wood and metal scraps. Lyra absorbed everything quickly, eager to learn and protect her child. By midday, they had made the farmhouse a small haven. The child played quietly with a piece of straw while Lyra and Elias prepared a simple meal. For the first time in days, the two adults allowed themselves a small sense of relief. But peace never lasted long in this galaxy. Around mid-afternoon, the faint hum of engines approached. Elias stiffened. He recognized the sound immediately. Raiders. They were back, and this time likely more determined. "Raiders," he muttered. "We need to move fast." Lyra's eyes widened, but she did not panic. "What should we do?" "We defend. We survive," Elias said firmly. "You stay inside with your child. I will create traps and barriers outside. We cannot let them get close." Lyra nodded, determination settling over her features. She gathered her child and moved to the farmhouse, following Elias's instructions to stay low and hidden. Elias stepped outside, examining the area around the house. He used debris, rocks, and sharp branches to create obstacles and traps that would slow the raiders down. Hours passed in tense preparation. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the land. Finally, the raiders appeared. Small ships landing at the village outskirts, their engines growling as they disembarked, weapons in hand. Elias crouched behind a barricade, waiting. The first raider approached the farmhouse unaware of the traps Elias had set. A hidden spike sent him sprawling, and another stumbled into a pit covered with debris. Elias watched, calculating each move, using his knowledge of human tactics and ingenuity to protect his little group. Lyra peeked through a broken window, clutching her child tightly. She could see Elias moving with precision, every action deliberate. Her admiration grew. Here was a human soldier, protecting not just her, but her child, risking his life for someone who was almost a stranger. The raiders regrouped, now more cautious. Elias knew he could not hold them off indefinitely, but he had one final strategy. Using the terrain, he lured them into a narrow passage where his traps were concentrated. Rocks, spikes, and makeshift barricades slowed their advance, and one by one the raiders were forced to retreat or get trapped. By nightfall, the raiders were gone, leaving only the faint echoes of their engines behind. Elias returned to the farmhouse covered in dust and sweat but unharmed. Lyra rushed to him, her eyes wide with relief. "You did it," she said, her voice trembling. "You saved us." Elias shook his head, a small smile on his face. "We did it. You helped too. You taught me paths, warned me of dangers. Your child kept me moving. We survived because we worked together." Lyra smiled, a real, heartfelt smile, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. "Thank you, Elias. I cannot repay you enough." "You don't need to," he replied. "Just live. That is enough." That night, they shared another simple meal, this time with a sense of achievement. The child slept peacefully between them, a symbol of hope and the future. Elias and Lyra spoke quietly, sharing stories of their pasts, of colonies lost and victories survived. They laughed softly, a rare sound in this harsh world. As the days passed, their bond grew stronger. Lyra learned more about human tactics, while Elias discovered the value of her alien knowledge, the plants she knew could heal, the subtle ways she could find water, and the tricks of the terrain that humans often overlooked. They became a team, relying on each other in ways neither had anticipated. One evening, as the sun set in brilliant shades of orange and purple, Elias looked at Lyra and her child. He felt a deep sense of pride and respect. Here was a mother who had faced unimaginable loss and hardship, yet had never given up. Here was a child who represented the possibility of a brighter future. And here was himself, a soldier, realizing that his true strength lay not in weapons or armor, but in protecting life and inspiring hope. Lyra approached him quietly. "Elias, do you think we can survive out here? Alone?" Elias looked at the horizon, where the faint glimmer of distant settlements could be seen. "Yes," he said firmly. "Not just survive, but thrive. We are stronger together. Humans, aliens, all of us. If we help each other, we can overcome anything." She nodded, a determined fire in her eyes. "Then we will do it. For my child. For everyone who has lost hope." The next weeks were a test of endurance. Elias and Lyra worked tirelessly, fortifying the farmhouse, planting crops, and tending to the animals. They traded with nearby settlements cautiously, gaining supplies and allies. With each passing day, they grew more capable, more resilient, and more confident. When raiders attempted to return again, Elias and Lyra were ready. Using a combination of traps, clever tactics, and sheer determination, they defended their home once more. Word spread among nearby villagers and settlements about the human soldier and the alien mother who could survive anything. Slowly, a small community formed around their farmhouse, people inspired by their courage and teamwork. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped behind distant mountains, Elias watched Lyra and her child playing in the fields. He felt a deep satisfaction, a rare peace he had never known. In a galaxy of chaos, he had found something precious: hope, life, and a bond that transcended species. Lyra approached him, her child in her arms, and smiled. "Thank you, Elias, for everything, for staying, for protecting, for believing." Elias nodded, resting a hand on the small fence they had repaired together. "We survived because we chose to care, because we chose to help. That is what makes us human, and that is what will make the future bright." The wind stirred gently, carrying the scent of crops, fresh earth, and hope. The village, once broken and empty, now hummed with life. Children laughed, animals grazed peacefully, and humans and aliens worked side by side. And in the middle of it all, a human soldier, an alien mother and her child stood together, a living testament to the power of compassion, courage, and unity. No matter what the galaxy threw at them next, Elias knew one truth that would never change. As long as people were willing to care, to fight for life, and to stand together, there was nothing they could not overcome. The stars shone brightly above, reflecting a universe of possibilities. And for the first time in a long while, Elias believed that hope was not just a word, it was a reality, born from courage, compassion, and the simple act of protecting those who could not protect themselves. In the ruins of a war-torn world, life had returned, and in the heart of that life burned a light that no darkness could ever extinguish.